Is that ring true? Does that sound about right?
I'm a big component that everybody in the bike industry is terrified of bottoming their bike out when they should be hitting the bottom at least twice a run. Like, why do you have a 6-inch travel bike if you never get all 6 inches? Like, it should move all the way through its travel. If it's limited, then what's the point? Yeah, I mean, if you were riding an old Sunday that had like a up to 8% back to zero and you clunked the bottom, that's not going to feel good in your feet. But at the same time, if it's too progressive, what it does is it gives you a too ghosty soft range in the beginning, which is fine at slow speeds. But when you start moving fast, your body weight is amplified by the speeds that you're going. And then the bike wants to not get deep into its travel. It only goes maybe 4 inches of the 6. And then it hits a ramp up wall, which keeps the bike from like getting that extra movement to track the ground. It keeps it from tracking under braking. And it really starts hitting the bumps with that like progression wall instead of allowing it to move enough to move over the bump. And it at high speeds, it starts becoming a very slow and kind of harsh bike. And the research that I've done with watching all the World Cup guys, the more 20 to 25% range for the downhill bikes, which would relate to 15 to 17 in the like 6-inch travel, the 165 bike, that's the range that opens after sag, that doesn't bottom out harsh, but will get the bottom, but still gives you that like track to the ground at high speed performance that you need for high speed race run type of application.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think the question that comes to my mind is, if you have it set up like you're saying, are you going to rely more on damping to have a feel of being able to push out of that being that deep in the travel, sitting and I'm in my mind, I guess, if I'm using all the travel across the whole trail, I'm going to be sitting in deeper on a higher percentage of that trail, so there'll be less platform for me to push out of things. Is that kind of along the same lines of like, what would you countering, running a softer air spring or coil spring, are you then wanting us to up our compression to kind of combat shaft speed, I guess is what I'm trying to get at?
I don't think so. Like, it's not so linear that you're going to bottom out hard, that you're not going to be like super deep all the time. You're not sagging at 40%. I usually set up everything about 30% of sag, which you still have a lively bunny hoppable like type of bike. It might feel a little stiffer in its slow speed performance, where the beginning stroke might be a little more damp and a little stiffer than a very, very progressive bike will feel. But that initial like stiffness helps with like a lot of your pedaling performance at slow speed, but it also completely opens up when you start high speed riding, when you're on your downhill. And that makes the bike feel a lot deeper than, a bike that is a lot more progressive. Like a 165 bike that's very progressive would only feel about like 140, 135 in its travel feel, because that last little bit you would almost never get unless you do like a big drop to a bad tranny. Now, if you're doing a big drop to a normal tranny, you're going to get into the like 80, 90, 95% of your stroke, and all the G outs and like bad trannies, you're going to get the rest of your travel. But if you never get the rest of your travel, then you're just limiting yourself, and it feels a lot more harsh actually when you're riding high speed. But it might feel on small bump a little stiffer than a more progressive bike.